Community Beacon, Fridays at 6:30 EST, with your hosts Michael Seville and Joel Simmons. A channel whose focus is liberty. A place where the lessons discussed and taught will create openings to a more open and freer mindset. A mindset where you may reach the height of your potential and excel. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joel.
What's going on? What's going on, brother?
Man, it's good to see you live and in person. Good to see you again. We talk all the time, but we don't normally see each other. So good, great to see you. How's your week been?
Man, it's a good busy. It's a good busy. You know, it's kind of funny, brother. I'm gonna tell you something. You know, I feel like I'm a brand new entrepreneur all over again. You know, you know how we've been talking and everything. You know, I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years, and the success ratio that I have right now compared to what it was 15 years ago, I mean, you know, killing it, man. I mean, whole nother level, you know, and so much shorter amount of time. You know?
Yeah.
How about you? What's going on with you, man?
Man, it's funny that you say that. It's funny that you say that, and we talk about on this show how words matter. Today we'll be getting into the topic of value and effectiveness versus busy. You kind of said busy at the beginning of the broadcast, but I think words matter again when we talk about entrepreneurship versus business person versus hustle versus grinding. And when you get to the level of actually running a business that you can leverage, when you start leveraging your businesses, everything changes. And I think when we first start become business owners, I don't know about your experience, or entrepreneur, excuse me, I don't know about your experience, but in regards to mine, it was more so all on me. I was essentially creating a job for myself. And then when I had the mindset shift of, listen, first off, I'm the worst boss I could have. Because I'm on call and it seems like I'm on the clock 24/7. You can easily get caught up in that. And at first, you know, and there's stages to it. There's somewhat pride. There could be a level of pride associated with it. But then eventually, as you continue going on, you're like, listen, there's other things outside of it. There's other things that I value besides having this so-called business. You know what I mean? Really was me just running myself into the ground. You know, I want to spend time with my family. I want to do things for the community. I want to grow bigger, grow spiritually, etc. So there's systems that need to be in place. And I think that's what's going on with you as well, are these new systems that's coming together. And of course, the rejuvenation that you have going on, because what you're doing out here is tremendous and excellent. You know, how you're breathing life into the lives of other people, other entrepreneurs, and just people in general, whether they're entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs. So I'm sure that also affects how you feel about your new business. But these systems, man, and getting these things put together and knowing what our vision is a lot more clearly. I think that's why we are where we are, man. Listen, we just got to babbling off. I'm Mike Seville. How about that? I'm Mike Seville.
Yeah, the real estate king.
The real estate guy here in South Florida. I appreciate you all for coming in and checking in. Of course, there's the host with the most. Listen, we just get into it, really. And I hope you're grabbing it. The host with the most, we got Joe Simmons. Go ahead, Joe. Talk to him.
Yeah. Once again, glad to be on this show, the Community Beacon, with my boy Mike Seville, the real estate king. And when I say real estate, I mean he's the real. Yes. And I'm stating it. He is the king. This man knows what he's doing. And I definitely firmly stand behind that. I mean, I'm in this beautiful home because of my man right there. So today we're diving in. It's all about effectiveness versus being busy or busyness.
And the topic of the month is value. The topic of the month is value. And so we're going to go down in regards to why we tend to be more effective versus busy. But let's just kind of introduce the topic of the month: value. What is value? So let's look at the definition of value. Value is the regard that something. Oh, there it is, right down there. Just pass out to Anna. The regard that something is held to deserve the importance, worth, or usefulness of something. We all ascribe value to different things, and we're going to get into how do we come up with our different values and our different value systems. But essentially, like what makes things valuable to us. And I mean, we're gonna get real deep into it, but don't worry about it. We have the rest of the month. We got the rest of the month for you guys. So of course, you all can ask questions. Feel free to chime in. We will get back to you, send us DMs, etc. But for the entire month, we'll be talking about value. And what a great time to talk about it, especially coming towards the end of the year and moving into the new year. So because what we want is for you all to gain crystal cut clarity on where it is that you intend on going and how to effectively get there, as opposed to being busy and just chasing your tail in circles.
There you go, man. There you go. There you go. You know, because I mean, the thing about it is like, right, you know, people, when we just become just like busy, just to say busy. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being busy doing something. But I think that the issue is when you're busy doing everything. Essentially, you become busy doing nothing. When, you know, you've heard us discuss having a dynamic task list. When you have a dynamic task list, it helps you to remember. It helps you to focus on your ultimate goals, your aspiration, your vision, your projected, your longevity projected goal, whatever it is that your purpose is driving you to. You know, that's what you're digging your heels into every single day. It doesn't mean that you will not have other tasks that you need to complete. You know, for instance, today, unfortunately, my little girl, she injured herself on yesterday, and we're still checking in with her to make sure she's, you know, A-okay. I had to take her by to go get an MRI today. Now that was not on my list of things to do, you know, at the start of this week. But life happens, and by the way, she's doing really well.
Good, brother.
But nonetheless, my dynamic task list is still playing a part. So I had to cut everything else off of my list of things to do because I needed to take my little girl to get her MRI. So everything else got put on the back burner. And I was left with 2 or 3 things left that I needed to complete. And so far, this is the third and final thing on my dynamic task list that I needed to complete today. That's what a dynamic task list does for you. And it helps you to go from simply being busy doing everything to being effectively accomplishing exactly what needs to happen in order for your success to manifest, you know? So having that dynamic task list is very important. And one of the things that we need to understand is, you know, you have to ascribe value to the things that you're dealing with. In order for you to create a dynamic task list, you have to have a purpose, you have to have a vision, and then you have to be able to assign value to whatever that is, or you're not going to be able to come up with this dynamic task list. It's just going to keep on going right over your head.
Listen, I'm loving it. We speak about the different things, because what happened with your little girl and having to take her to get the MRI, we tend to talk, excellent, assigning value to your purpose, because that immediately became urgent and important. So everything that's urgent and important, when we're looking at that quadrant, urgent and important things, and the thing is, you don't want to stay in the urgent and important square. Like, these things are the emergency. These things are like this family situation, this injury that occurred. Automatically, that pushes all the way to the urgent and important. Because if you stay in urgent and important, that you'll be in a constant state of anxiety. you'll essentially at one point in time run out of fuel and crash because you're always in this state of high alert. And unfortunately, this is what you see a lot of people when they go off to war and they go to like these different war zones. They're constantly in a state of what's going on, awareness and urgent. Everything is urgent and important in the war zone because you're talking about things that are life and death. So now, because Joel ascribed family has to be, what is it? Is that's got to be like number 2 on your list of things in purpose of your purpose. It's got to be, for me, it's God and then family. You know what I mean? So so it's up there. It's top 3, at least top 3, because you got yourself too. You got to worry about yourself. But it's up there top 3. So when something happens in these squares, which I call life.
Let me help you out here, Mike. I'm going to give this to you. I'm going to give this to you also because I see what you're doing with this, and I love it. I love it, man. So I think that we need to just go ahead and make sure that the people can visualize, because maybe they don't have the opportunity to go back and see exactly what you're talking about. So
okay. Yep. There we go. See that urgent and important. That's crises, emergencies. So you're in crisis management. Taking your girl, you're taking Sweet Pea to go get the MRI. That's the crisis management. That immediately gets pushed up. Well, Mike, how do I know what's in the crisis management? Well, we already figured out that if Joel, if in his top 3 is God, himself, and family, however you want to label those things, which for most people, essentially what you want to be at. Anything that happens in there, which, like I said, this is like life. This is what I talk about when life happens, because life always will happen. You're going to push these things into that crisis, into that crisis emergency, that box 1. Once again, you don't want to stay there. You don't want, like, this life has happened to you all the time. You got to really address what's going on with you. But now, because we call it dynamic, it's a dynamic task list because it's always changing. Because instead of just being a task management, it's a dynamic task management, because if something like this pops in, you can immediately put it in there. But we ascribe the value to it because Joel already understands the value of his purpose and exactly where he's headed and what he wants his life to look like. So all we're doing is, what we ended up doing was we worked backwards from it. And now you can start to put these different things into different boxes. And I know that, hey, maybe I need to push this meeting off because money's not up there. It's not equivalent to the family. So it's like, I need to push this off because I need to put the family up there. And what we want to show you with this, and what you're going to get out of this at the end of this, is that what you're going to get this clarity. And when you start to begin, once you start to assign value, and you get this clarity, you can handle these emergencies and still get back into the flow of things. A lot of you guys are watching this. A day later. It's Friday. We take this today. So this will be going on Friday. So you're watching this tomorrow, essentially. You're watching this in the future. But we had a time schedule that we were going to do it. But because we understand the dynamic task list, we're able to make adjustments, boom, just like that. Be able to plug these things in, and we still get to move on. Whereas you're not going to get another show. You're not going to get you're not going to get no show at all. How about that? You wouldn't get a show. But because we understand our purpose and what we're committed to, and we understand these like that life happens, we can make the adjustment on the dynamic task list. Can we just call that DTL?
DTL, man. I think that's the new phenomenon.
Yeah. The DTL. So let's talk about what we have on the screen: assigning value to your purpose, brother.
And that's important, man. I think that you just kind of like hit the nail right on the head, especially with that, and that's important, and that's why we want to discuss this throughout the month, because in one standpoint, we're touching on a lot of business aspects right now, but just so happens that the example given today introduced a family piece that was very important to me. So I had to shuffle things around. I still was able to get some of those things done, or at least a few of those things done, those main things done that I needed to have done to be able to reach my further goals. But the number one thing was, all right, stop everything, make sure she's okay, make sure kids get to the school, and now resume. keep it moving, And so was I busy? Absolutely. I was going from pillar to post, but was I effective? You got it. I was extremely effective. I made my class. I taught my student, I was able to contact. We have a strong lead right now that's just waiting for a couple of documents. I was able to contact them. I was able to speak with them. We were able to gain clarity. And clarity is like having intense concentration. It's the lucidity and being mindfully present. So I was able to go into this meeting with the individual for five minutes because time is very precious. And I was able to ascertain every single thing that I needed to have to finish the project, to get them exactly what they needed so that we can go ahead and move forward with, the object that we're seeking to accomplish. So, and then I was able to get back here. Mike and I were still able to have our meeting earlier. We made a new time for this show, and Anna was able to come in and put all this stuff together. And so that's where it's at, because we can go round in circles attempting to do everything, not able to do everything. I've got documents downstairs sitting on the table. I wasn't able to pick up all those documents. Somebody out there might have been saying, oh, well, I would have picked up those documents. I can't do that. Can't do that. I just can't do everything. I'm just not able to do everything. There was definitely some other things that I need to do around the house, some other phone calls I could have made, some other things I could have put into the computer. Unable to, because I want to be effective.
Right.
So when we're assigning value, it is when you are actually evaluating the things that you are doing, and you're like put them on a sliding scale. This will help you prioritize things and hit that DTL. Put them on a sliding scale. On a sliding scale from 1 to 10, how important is it for you to accomplish whatever that is? 10 being, I've got to get this done. If I don't, the worst case scenario happens. And 1, whether I get it done or not, I probably won't even care. Nobody will care. It's like taking a cup and putting it inside the sink or washing it. Nobody's really going to care. Somebody may because the dish wasn't washed, but really, you're going to allow 2 or 3 dishes to keep you from becoming successful or entering that relationship or redeveloping that relationship or whatever it is.
Yeah. Anna's got it down there, man. I love how Anna moves in. And so what Joel is talking about at this point in time, and we're getting into this question that we'll answer is, how do we determine the value of something objectively or subjectively? How do we determine the value objectively or subjectively? You all know I am and this was funny and interesting because I was having a conversation with one of my coaches today, and they were talking about the disc profile, the different personalities that they are. And I'm a high D, high D, I think it's C, high DC personality. That's my personality, right? So a D tends to be a driver. Like I'm just like, listen, when you hear me talk, for the most part, it's like, man, what's the point? You know what I mean? Like, let's get down to the bare brass of the thing. Like what is this thing about? So I tend to think of things more objectively and there is subjectively in there because I do want to get to the point of it, but I just need to know, like, okay, well, what are we talking about? You know what I mean? So when we start talking about on that scale from 1 to 10, like that speaks to me. And for a long time, I felt like that's what people should be at. People should, what's the golden rule? Treat others as you would have to be treated, right?
Yes.
But everyone has their own personality. And when you get to sales, you have to treat people not the way that you want to be treated. You have to treat people the way that they want to be treated. And it's not just sales, it's relationships throughout. So that's why the subjectively part now, when we talk about it, it speaks to me because it's not, I'm not in this by myself. That's fine that I can get to the bottom of things and the bare brass, and this is exactly what it is. But for a lot of us, and this is what Joel helps people do as well, is subjectively ascribe it at the end. Like what subjectively, how are you gonna put value on something, and then come back and break it down objectively? That's a powerful way to go about life. That's a powerful way to go about life. And we kind of spoke about some examples of it. Thanks, Joe, for putting that up there. We kind of spoke about some examples of it earlier. But so subjectively, brother, we spoke about subjective as being what? The purpose and the end goal, correct? I mean, it's kind of
subjective.
Yeah.
Well, the thing with being subjective versus objective, for all of our viewers, is like subjective is one of the spring. It's
right
influenced by your feelings. It's a thought process, and objective is tangible things. It's the evidence. It's the evidence, So you got the evidence of the things that you can't see, and then you got the feeling or the belief in the things that you can't see. That's the difference between subjective and objective. So when you ascribe value, once again, that sliding scale system, you can have something, like the lights inside of my room that I'm utilizing for this broadcast, right? So when I go on to Amazon, that's where I purchased this stuff from. No, shout out to Amazon, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they ain't sent me $1 yet, so that right now this is a subjective value. Subjectively, I believe that they are valuable, but if they ask us to do a commercial, then objectively, I am going to say thumbs up. So I look at the lights, and I'm like, all right, looking at it on my phone, that looks like it's going to work. This is my feeling, my thought process. So I put it on a scale of 1 to 10, and I'm like, all right, so if I want to buy it, it's got to at least be a 7 in my mind. I mean, if I want to pay for it. So I'm thinking, subjectively, that is the light that's going to work for me. Bing, I just paid somebody for that light. It shows up to the house, right? Once it shows up to the house, I prop it up. It works. It works great. I love my lighting. Now, objectively, I'm like, all right, this is the light that I love. Bing, on the scale, it's a 10 now because I have it. And I can ascribe a different type of value. This is now a genuine value that it has. Right. Because not only do I feel something about it, but I actually have had the opportunity to utilize it and see its value working. And now the value changes. I think we were talking about this earlier. It transverses. So it went from being subjective to objective. And that means that the value transverse, it traveled from just a feeling to an actual tangible evidence-based reality for me. And when it's an evidence-based reality, you have to apply it to the value scale a second time. Because you may find that whatever it is that you have invested in is no longer good. You don't even need it anymore. You don't want it anymore because what you thought you were getting, it ain't what you got. So be quick about these things. Don't feel bad about it. Now, Mike will tell you about it. He don't feel bad about it at all. For those of us that are empathetic or empathic, sometimes we feel bad about it. We're like, oh man, Mike is just like nuts and bolts. If it don't fit, then you got to quit.
Listen, I tend to, I'm that bottom brass thing, and I love the way that you put it in regards to actually having. Switching it from actually putting the genuine value on it. Because remember what we spoke about last week, it goes back to that passion, to the feelings. Feelings come and go. It's that new car. It's that you took that car out, you drove it. Oh my God, I have to have this car. This is going to be, I feel this way about this car. Be careful about how you feel about materialistic things as well, people. Be careful. And then you drive off the lot, and three payments later, I wonder how I can take this car back. You know what I mean? It's not worth what I thought it was going to be worth. Now, if the value of the car was more so based on what the car could do for you, as opposed to how the car makes you feel, then I need this car to get to and from this, to this destination, whether it's work, whether it's you need to drive people around. It just makes it's the more so the convenience of it. That car lasts forever. Like you feel the value of that car well beyond the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months. And this is going a little bit left now that I'm thinking about it. But just be careful how you place the value of things, especially subjectively, because once you materialize it and you have it, and then now all of a sudden that value goes lower, then that's a good time for you to think about, like, why did I purchase this thing, and what am I missing in regards to it? Some people purchase a car to make themselves feel better. Like I said, 3 to 4 or 5 months later on down the line, when you're still making that payment and you got 55 more payments to go, because most people, I don't know most people, but I know there used to be like a 60-month payment for a vehicle, 5 years. How does that make you feel? This is the people who buy the biggest house, the biggest, best house on the block. You know what I mean? And it's at the highest of the pay rate. You a little bit later on down the line, you're like, man, this is just a house. Don't let that house end up becoming handcuffs. Now you're working for this house. You understand what I mean? And I tell people about it all the time. It's not about how much you're able to get. How much you're able to get is what you can afford. Can you actually afford this? Because subjectively this seemed like a great idea, but then the genuine value of it, and maybe I'm the one raining on people's parade. Maybe that's why.
No, you're good, Mike. I mean, you stimulate my thought process right here. I love it.
Yeah. So that's what we do when we talk about determining the value objectively versus subjectively. It's great to have guides along the way to help you kind of weed through that as well. Help you cut down on it, because 90% of purchases are made emotionally. It's made emotionally. Most things are emotional purchases. As a salesperson, you're taught to kind of hit on those emotional things. Also, you want to move to Atlanta to be with your family, right? And then that's always brought up in the close. So let me see. You want to move to Atlanta to be with your family. You're lonely here. You can't wait to go. How is it going to feel when you get around all that family and you're around them all the time? That kind of thing. So it's an emotional purchase, but you still want to have that objective feeling, because once you get to Atlanta, you want to make sure that it's a good move, both for emotionally and financially for your pockets. Awesome.
I think that's good, Mike. And remember, y'all. The thing about this is that just because something is subjectively valued doesn't mean that it cannot still carry a great deal of value for you. But what we're getting at is that you need to put it on that scale. Make it real. Make it very real. So like some of the things that we want to do, some of the things that I will do with my clients is I want to find their worth. What is this worth? So they come to me and they have a purpose, or they don't have a purpose. They have a passion, right? And their passion, they value it. It's a 10, It's like right underneath God, family, passion, this thing that they want to do. Okay, that's great. I love passion. I deal in passion. I'm doing a work right now because of my passion. The difference is that I ascribed a purpose to it, and now I work out of my purpose and I access my passion. All right. So there's a difference there. And how did I do that? I began to go down a series of questions. I have them do a here to there. I have them do a vision plot. I have them to do a few different things. I have them to ascribe, to write down their passion, to write down the purpose, and I give them the definitions of the two of them. And then I give them examples of how they differ. And then I begin to explain this, because we have to find the worth of it. And when we do this, we begin to go down a new pathway, right? Is that perfect or what? Right.
Right.
This is a live stream, when my dog starts to play with his chew toy in the middle of the show.
How much does he value that chew toy right now?
Yeah, his value is about to diminish. Attempting to be nice with him. So this is very important. It's prudent. It's prudent. Ascribe the worth of whatever it is. And this will help you especially when what you value is subjective, especially when it's subjective. When it's objective, it's easy. It's like when I was talking about the light, I set it up, it works. I like it. I got a remote control. I can turn it up. I can turn it down, whatever I want. I can make it cool. I can make it warm. I can make it bright white. I like that. That's easy. But when it's subjective, it's not so easy. And there will be some things that are subjective, but we'll get into that later because we got the whole month to talk about some of those things.
Right. And once again, we're just talking about clarity. We're talking about clarifying your goal, clarifying what it is that you have. Look, as it says down below, clarity and value of doing something is how successful one can be. Once you start to get clear on your goals, we talk about Habakkuk, was it 2:2? Is that the verse?
Yeah.
When we start to write it down and make it plain, we're attempting to. What's going to happen is you're going to figure out how to prioritize when we talk about putting things in the urgent and in the boxes. But then we're also talking about how to actually not have just things up in the air. Like what does this really, what's this genuine value? What does this really mean to you? So we'll continue moving on. And I guess this rolls into our last question was how to be effective and not just be busy, right? Because all this comes down to how to be effective and not just busy. I don't know about you, but I remember, especially at the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, but let me not even say at the beginning, because it was probably at the beginning and halfway through. I feel like I'm you're always just hitting your stride. Like if I had known this 5 years ago, everyone's like, and I believe you will say that for the rest of our lives. And had I known this just 5 years ago, this is gold, this is a gem, whatever the case may be. But when I left, and it was interesting, when I left the city and I started to, and I was on my own, one of the things I realized fairly quickly was that, Mike, you can't just be running around being busy for the sake of being busy. I don't know where it came from. Maybe it was from watching other entrepreneurs, etc. But I knew I just didn't want to just be busy. Right? Don't get me wrong, because we can always be busy. One thing about it is always something to do. You can either do it or you don't have to do it, but there's always something that you could be doing, right? So I say, I don't want to be busy for the sake of being busy, but what happens is from the outside looking in, and I think especially from people who don't understand different priorities of placing value on things, it just seems like Mike is always running. It seems like Mike is always busy. But I'm telling you, people, once you start to actually, and we spoke about scheduling before, once you start to put things on that dynamic task list, once you start to get your organization, everything, because we all have 24 hours in a day. That's it. So once you start to figure out how to put things in a box, it's not that you're just busy for being the sake of being busy. I'm just being effective. So when I set aside time, when I set aside time that this is client time, this is my admin time, this is my follow-up time, this is my letting people know where we're at in the process time, I have all the time in the world for that whatever it is that I'm doing at that point in time. So if you call me, like I tell you, listen, I'll return your phone call. More than likely, it'll be after 2:00. And it'll be in between appointments. But I'm going to call you, Mike. I know you're busy. Look, slow down. We're on the phone now because if I was busy, I wouldn't have picked up the phone. I'm being effective. Let's work through what it is that we have to work through. But it's that I'm just placing more value on the time that I have, and the way that I know that I'm placing value on it is by actually protecting that schedule. That's all I'm doing. So I'm protecting the time that I have for each task. From 8 to 11, it's going to be hard for you to reach me Monday through Friday. More than likely, my phone is off. It's on focus. Every now and then, the brother Joe gets through, and I answer him real briefly, like, "Oh man," because for whatever reason, just be, Joel is definitely up there on my priorities. So when something comes through, I'm just like, I hit him back real quick, like, brother, blah, 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 and then we'll move on. You know what I mean? But I'm back to whatever the prospecting that I'm doing. Then you got from 11 to 11:30. I got my coaching. It's 11 to 11:30. I'm just leave me. I'm focused on the coaching. Then from 11:30 to 12, depending on what day it is that time. Today, if you were to call, and he knows it, I was on a call and he called me. But I know that 12 to 1 is our time for us to go over it. So whatever it's doing, boom, in the middle of it. All right, I'm gonna call you back, or we'll deal with what I deal with later, because that's my 11:30 to 12 is that indiscriminatory time. But from 12 to 1 on Thursdays, I'm gonna be in Community Beacon. You're really gonna talk to me at that point in time, because we're actually having a conversation about certain things. So that's the point about being effective. You have to become, like it says on the bottom, you have to get becoming organized helps you to gain that clarity. We're attempting to give you this extreme focus. You want to be and we spoke about it earlier. You want to be extremely focused. Why do you want to be extremely focused? Because when you're extremely focused, things that normally take you 2 to 3 hours will take you 20 to 30 minutes to accomplish. You'll have more. You actually end up having more time. But if you're doing one thing and then you're moving from one thing to the next because you don't know what you're doing, you're just moving all over the place, nothing gets done. There's a study that states that it takes you 7 minutes to get back on track to whatever you were doing. So let's think about this for a second. And I don't know about your notifications, and you can actually check this on your phones. So if you're doing something for an hour, let's say you're doing paperwork, we do contracts. Let's do contracts for an hour. We subscribe that we're supposed to be in a contract. And as you both know, if you let your real estate agent mess up on your contract, you talking about being really upset. you know somebody's upset when they get to the closing table and they didn't know they gave up everything. Then you look at when you go through that final walkthrough and the refrigerator is not there, the washer and dryer is not there. They took down the drapes or whatever. They took down everything. And then you go back and look on your contract, and it was stated in there that these things don't convey. But if because when they were going over the contract, they were, and most people aren't reading contracts. So it's up to us as the professionals to actually look through it and explain what's going on to see if it makes sense for the client. So if I'm on the contract and I subscribe an hour to do it, and I'm in it, and then I'm getting these notifications, and it takes my mind off. Or I'm getting these text messages and I'm answering text messages at the same time. It takes me 7 minutes to get back into what I was doing. So if your phone goes off 3, and I'm being gracious, you get 3 to 5 notifications, whatever it is that takes you off a track. What's 5 times 7? That's 30. That's 37 minutes. Excuse me, 37 minutes. 5 times 7, that's 35 minutes. My math. 35 minutes. So you're actually only spending 25 minutes dealing with this contract these contracts that you were dealing with. So now instead of you fully finishing the contract within an hour, it's going to take you an hour and a half to 2 hours to do something because you're constantly getting these notifications. And how effective were you? And this is just if you picked up the phone and say hello and hung it up. We're not even talking about you're on the phone for 30, 45 seconds or a minute. Now you're breaking it down. So for the most part, most of my stuff is done besides appointments in the afternoon. I can essentially be done earlier than most people because I'm extremely focused on what it is that I'm doing. Does that make sense?
That's powerful, man. So, I mean, basically what we're talking about is HVAs, right? High value activities, y'all. That's what it is. And that needs value. Like, value is very important. So many of the topics that we've discussed over the last couple of months have to deal with ascribing value to whatever it is, not just to your goals, but to the actual object or objective that you're focused with. Your high value tasks or high value activities that you're attempting to accomplish, it's big. So how do I do this? What do you need to do? You need to plan. You got to plan. You got to plan for the activities, the beginning of every day or the end of every night. You've got to choose one of those times before you start or after you've finished planning for the next day, so that you walk into the day knowing exactly what you need to do. I mean, just coming up with those that dynamic task list isn't necessarily simple if you have no clue what activities you need to focus on to hit those targets. I mean, these are targets. So think about it like this: an archer. If an archer does not know where the target is, how will that archer ever be able to? I mean, they can pull the bow, they can pull the string back, they get the line back, they can have the arrow ready. But if they don't know where the target is, they're shooting into the blind. You don't want to haphazardly go into life thinking that you're going to be successful by just shooting arrows into the blind. You need to know where you're going, what you're aiming at, and how to improve your aim. So you have to set these things up, those high value activities. You got to set them up, HVAs. You got to do that. And so once you start planning, the next thing you do is, okay, I got my plan. The next thing you need to do is you need to become creative. You have to start building into that plan. That's where the dynamic task list comes up, because now you're building into it. You know, just like what Mike was saying, now what you're starting to do is you're like, okay, this is my high value activity. Number one, what do I want to do as an archer? I want to be the best archer in all of Palm Beach County. That's what I want. I want to be the best. What does it take to be the best? Well, XYZ, him, her, them are already doing whatever it is, and they are the top three. So research. What are they doing? They're practicing 3 hours every single day, Monday through Friday. And I don't know what they're doing on the weekend, but I know they're at such and such place practicing 3 hours a day. So now I have a goal. I need to be there for 3 hours at minimum. Maybe I need to be there 4 or 5 hours if I can. I have a goal now. I need to put this on my task list. In order for me to get at minimum the same amount of practice time, I have to match it. The next thing is, how do they know if they're not doing well? Oh, they got a coach. I need to invest in a coach. That's what I need. I got to get a coach, because I won't know if I could tweak something and do better because I can't see myself. All I know is, oh, I hit that target. Yeah, but what if I'm shooting 500 arrows and there is one minor thing that I could tweak that would cause me to go from the center outer to center? And that other individual is watching me and they're like, oh, it's your finger placement. That's worth a whole lot because my goal is to be the best.
Yeah.
You know what? It's worth paying whatever it is because I want to reach my goal. So I need that coach. So that's the second thing I need to do. Okay. So now maybe fatigue keeps on setting in. Every time I go out there, I find myself being tired. So what do I need to do? I need to start exercising because I need to build up my muscle integrity. I need to get some rest at night. So I need to reschedule my day so that I can get more rest. Again, high value activities that will help me to hit that center mark. That's the goal. That's the focus. Planning, creation. You got to do these things in order for you to be able to be the best. And then you need to start servicing those things. You got to get up, get out, and do it, right? When I tell my children, I say, listen, learn, do. That's it. Listen, learn, do. It is the crazy simple way or philosophy of accomplishing nearly anything. First, you take in the information. Second, you learn it. Have understanding. With all that getting, get understanding, please. Knowledge is nothing without understanding. I don't care how much you know. If you don't got a clue on how to use it, when to use it, why you use it, where you use it, or even what you're using, you're going nowhere. It's just like knowing useless information. I mean, unless you're on Jeopardy, it'll pay off. And then do it. You have to practice it, because the thing about it is no matter how much you know, if you don't practice it, if you don't get that kinesthetic feeling, if you don't get that muscle memory built in, you're not going to be effective. And once again, we've circled back around to effectiveness versus busyness.
I love it, brother. And exactly what you're talking about is mastery. That's how you gain mastery of something. You got a bunch of people out here doing, but while you're doing it, while you're getting it, you need to get the understanding of it. Beautiful. Listen, people, we're going to be talking about this all month long. We'll be talking about value. We'll be talking about coaching. We'll be talking about, and what it ends up being, and it just came to my mind, is effectively being the master of something. And I'm going to tell you what, once you become the master of something, you're going to be putting in less work and getting and producing much more. Because this might be interesting when we go to it, because you're going to go from, what is it? The understanding. You go from you go to unconscious competence. Because right now, a lot of us are unconsciously incompetent. We think we know what we're doing, but we don't know. You understand what I mean? And then you go from unconscious competence, and then in the middle is that consciously incompetent. Let me tell you something. That's where most people stop. That's where most people stop is the consciously incompetent. Because when you know you're bad, you're like, oh God, you know what I mean? And then you go into consciously competent, where now you're consciously, oh, okay, I'm starting to get the hang of this thing. And then the mastery level is unconscious competence. That's when I don't know if you ever used to play, or I used to play the video games. And I remember there was one video game I got so good at that I didn't even have to pay. That's when you're not even looking at the button. You know, when you start, you're looking at the buttons. Is this X? Is this B? Y? What are the buttons are? And then you get to a point where you're just playing like this. Okay, I know this person's gonna go here. I used to be like that with Madden. I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. Changing plays in the middle. You get to that point. So that's what we're talking. That's the mastery part of it. And once again, once you get to that mastery part, everything starts to become a lot easier. Things start to slow down, and you start to move in that direction of mastery. And you're no longer being busy. You're just being effective. You're just being effective. Hey, effectively doing this, doing that. And now you got more time to, if you want to watch, now you can start watching more TV. Now you can, because you're just waking up and you understand how to do it. You understand what I mean?
Yeah. That's it. That's it, man. That's it. So, I mean, that's where we want to get, y'all. We want to get to mastery. We want to be at mastery. We want to be able to, at the drop of a hat, be able to speak on whatever it is. We want to be able to put our hands to something and be able to successfully do it. That's the success of it. And we should look to do this in every single thing of our life. It should transverse. Right. When you're dealing with your wife, or for some of you all, the women out there, when you're dealing with your husband. We need to get unconscious competent with our loved ones. That's it. You need to know that. We're going to get into this on another episode. But listen, you need to know who you're with. You got to know them. Yep. If you don't know there's a song. Who sang that song? If you don't know me by now.
You will never. I know, man. I'll look it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know,
I think if you
you
don't
need to
love me
know.
by now.
If you don't know, if that, and I love that song. If you don't know me by now, you will never know me, because it's like,
Simply red.
huh?
Simply red.
Simply Red. Okay.
Yeah.
So now this is a powerful song. I love music because music is something that helps to motivate my mind and to help move my brain in certain directions, because there's a lot of artists that have put something into the music that really depicts truth. And I love that part. I pull that out. I don't always keep all of the music, but sometimes I'll pull out just a little bit, just what matters. So so if you don't know me by now, so think about that when you're thinking about dealing with your loved ones, because if you, not even them, because you can't control them, but if you don't know your loved one and you've been married, you've been with somebody for so long, you need to rethink whether or not you are even supposed to be in that relationship. You may need to come and see me. We need to talk. We need to talk. We got to work on something, because sometimes what's going on with people and they're having some issues in their life is because they ain't got a clue who they are with. They don't know who they're with.
Oh,
they are walking into a relationship expecting for somebody to do something, and they ain't never going to do it. They never intended to do it. You just expect them to do it because that's what you want. And what you want doesn't matter to them at that time. So they ain't going to do it.
It starts, I always say this, it starts with the man and ends with the man. And I say this because, and a woman can use it for herself as well. It starts with a woman. This is just the quote and how it goes, is that this is very similar to how I used to walk into business. And we were talking about that today. Now you have these different personalities. You have the driver who's just here. Listen, let me just get to the bottom of this. I don't want to waste all. Let me not waste all your time. This is what can happen. And then you have people who are like they're called amiables. So amiable people, they go along to get along. They want to get along. They want you to look them in the face and they want to have this conversation. And when you go on these sales, there's times when these people are just talking to you. And me as a driver, I'm just like, why are we doing all this talking? Let's get to the bottom of it. And as a rookie, unconsciously incompetent person, I'm attempting to make this person the way I am. Like, listen, all right, you can stop all this talking right now. This is what we need to do. I'm not relating to this other person, and this person is the client. So what does that happen? That doesn't make me a good person. That doesn't make me a good salesperson. That doesn't make me a good person that should be a professional, because I'm attempting to do things the way that I want to do. You know what I mean? I'm supposed to be guiding these people according to their personality. I can't guide these people according to my personality, because that's just not the way that they're wired. So once you start to take all of that in, and it's just with those relationships, you start to say, okay, well, this is how this person is, or this is their personality type, and you're getting to know these people. And if you know that, and you can take responsibility for that, I can imagine how many less arguments you're going to get into.
Success.
I can imagine how many times you're not going to butt head with these person that you're intimately involved with. Because you're not trying to force them to think like you. We are all different, right?
Yes, and this takes communication.
Yeah.
There has to be a give and take on both sides. Y'all go back and look at the episode, the stream that we talked about relationships and communication, and also groundwork and that type of stuff. But we're gonna get into this some more. I want to take it back to a verse. And you mentioned it because I think it's about time that we go ahead and it's about time to close it on out. And I want to bring in this verse as we prepare to close it out on value, because one of the things we're talking about in business, as well as many other things, is mastery. So in 2 Timothy 2:5, it stated, And if a man also strive for masteries, yet is he not crowned, except he strive lawfully. So, I mean, listen, you got it. It's very simple. I know that the scripture may sound like it's difficult, but it means that you got to put in the work. That's what it means. You got to do the work. There's no cheating on this. You don't, hey, what you got for number 3? Oh, okay. What about 7? Okay. Hey, how about number 52? Okay. No, you can't look on somebody else's page and write down all their answers and think you got it. Mike, you said something to me one time before because I was concerned about putting a patent on all of my sayings and everything. PAM management and I got and rock movers and stuff like this. If y'all are wondering what all that stuff is, look on my LinkedIn page. But anyway, I was concerned about it. And Mike was like, man, brother, listen, it doesn't really matter because anyone can take that and they can use it. What it really comes down to is who uses it the best. So anyone can copy what I have done or the philosophies that I bring, but if they don't know how to use it, they will lose it. It won't make sense coming out of their mind. But in my mind, I've got perfect mastery of those things because I created it from my heart. It's my passion. It's my purpose. And it helps elevate my mind. It helps me move in the next direction. So I have practiced PAM management. I am an advocate of being a rock mover. I have done my groundwork and I still do groundwork because I don't want my ground to ever have turmoil. I don't want it to start taking on termites, bugs, rodents. I don't need anything. I don't want roots growing underneath my grounds and cracking my foundation. I don't need any of that stuff. So what am I doing? I'm striving for mastery. And Mike can't strive for me. I can only do it myself. That's what that means. That's what adding value to something does for you. You add the value and you strive to accomplish that goal through dynamic tasks, high value activities, consistency, clarity. All right?
Commitment.
That's what you got to do. What you say, brother?
Yeah, listen, man. Well said. What else can I say? What else can I say when you lay it out there just like that? I'm loving it. Listen, mastery, and that's where you want to end up being. Can do it. A lot of you all know I've spoken about it several times, and I talk about it on Mondays. Check me out Mondays at 9:00. I talk about this making these phone calls, doing these sales calls, the cold calls, warm calls, whatever kind of calls. And just a month ago, and I can't wait. I'm not gonna put it out there now, but I taped myself from the beginning, and it's not pretty. It's not pretty. And then I had to go back and check myself out today when I was making my calls, and it's almost completely different. But this is time being put in. And this is that point where I'm just like, I'm in my, like, how can I do this? It's like learning how to ride a bike at the age of 60. It's like just attempting to figure something out. So, you to ascribe to get that mastery, put the time in, put the work in, do it the best, be the best at it. And I'm telling you guys, you will see the fruits of it. You will see the fruits of it. Are we about done? We wrapping it up now?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Listen, people, as you know, we are here each and every Friday at 6:30. Please like and subscribe and share this page. Someone that you know needs to hear this. Someone you know needs to hear this. And of course, we are also here to help you guys out. You got Joel here who's willing to book a call, book some time with him. You know what I mean? And of course, you have me here in regards to real estate and business. Please. Now is the time, people. I just read an article that millennials, you're around 40 years old, and it goes down to about 28, 29, somewhere around there. The millennials, our net worth, our net worth is less than what our parents were at this age. And what they're saying now is that this is the last time for us to acquire wealth. You do not want to be one of those people that don't has lived life and has nothing to show for it. We're not buying property. We don't have any solid foundation. This is the time for you to start acquiring wealth and assets, so that when you get to the next stage of life, you can end up starting to give it away, or you can have something, you can start to create legacy. So it's very, very important for you to get with us and start moving in that direction. We weren't talking about coaches 15, 20 years ago. We probably didn't even know what it was at the time. But now we actually see the value in it. See the value in starting now. This is the time. Young man, pick up your, what is it? Pick up your plow. You know what I mean? Like now, you do works now. Do your works now. That's it, man. Mike Seville, real estate. Check me out on Instagram. Check me out on Facebook. I'm turning it over to the brother. I love you guys, and just keep checking in. What's going on, brother?
Yeah. Joel Simmons, motivatorpreneur, tenacity _foundation. Check me out as well. Y'all need us. We love it. We love doing what we're doing. We're here for you.
Yeah.
That's why we doing what we do. Liberty, y'all. Let's make everybody free. All right,
man. Peace. Listen, love you guys. Peace.
Community Beacon, Fridays at 6:30 EST, with your hosts Michael Seville and Joel Simmons. A channel whose focus is liberty. A place where the lessons discussed and taught will create openings to a more open and freer mindset. A mindset where you may reach the height of your potential and excel